Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
This is Business Roots on Talk Radio Europe with Mike McDowell and Simone Carlos.
Welcome to Business Roots on Talk Radio Europe. I'm Mike McDowell. This is the show that puts foreign business owners centre stage. As well as their personal stories, we chat about the trials and tribulations of launching and running a company in Spain, big or small. Now, regular listeners will be wondering, where is Simone? Or rather, where is the clever woman who keeps this fool in check? And you are absolutely right, she's not here with me right now. Or rather, I am not there because this week I am on the island of Mallorca, recording a few interviews for later editions of this show. It means that Simone and I are not together to record the introduction, but do not worry, you will hear Simone in a couple of minutes talking to our first guest, Joke Neuten, who is a self-employed certified translator based in eastern Spain. Later on in the programme, I will be chatting to Nicole Peterson. Nicole is a graphic designer and she lives in the very heart of Barcelona. So, two freelancers this week, and they are both in agreement that the Spanish government needs to do more to incentivize people, and especially Spanish people, to start their own businesses. Since March 2021, a staggering 96% of new freelancers are foreigners. It is foreigners in Spain who are driving growth in tech, in construction and in hospitality particularly. It is foreigners who are leading the charge in Spain's entrepreneurial landscape. As you will hear, both of this week's guests think Pedro Sanchez must redress that balance somehow. Not every Spanish adult can work for the government, of course. Now, ordinarily, we have an educational section of the show in which Simone answers listeners' questions about various aspects of running a small business in Spain. She educates us foreigners about taxes and trademarks and traspasos and reminds us every week to find a decent gestor and then keep that gestor on his or her toes with plenty of questions. Of course, we're not together this week, Simone and I, so rather than record remotely, we thought we would wait until next week to dig into the Business Roots inbox again. Perhaps we will tackle extra questions in the next programme. Okay, let's go to our first guest. A few days ago, Simone spoke to Joke Neuten, who is a freelance certified translator based just outside Valencia. And she started by asking Joke the question which must surely be on the mind of every professional translator these days. Are you going to be replaced by a machine?
How do you see the rise of artificial intelligence and their programs and translating application affecting your business?
Well, it had definitely affected my business, but I knew that it was coming. So I would say, whereas before ChatGPT and Perplexity and Gemini and all those applications, I would say it was 50-50 certified translation versus legal translation, like non-certified, but translation of contracts. A few years ago, I think it was somewhere in December, I noticed a sudden drop. And then I talked to some law firm clients of mine, and they told me, yeah, nowadays we do the translations ourselves inside the company, in-house, and they use applications like artificial intelligence. So I've definitely noticed that. And so right now, I would say 90%, 95% of what I do is certified translations. But since I'm certified in two countries, Belgium and in Spain, I get a consistent stream of work from both countries. So that way I am covered, I would say. But I've heard from a lot of fellow translators that they're really struggling. So it is definitely an issue in our line of work, but not just our line of work. Many industries will be affected in the coming months and years for sure.
So you mentioned you're certified in Spain. So since you work here in Spain, do you need to have the certification in Spain?
Yes, so it depends. For instance, before I had my certification in Spain, I could use my Belgian certification, but then I needed to add an extra layer. I needed an apostille, and this apostille is no longer needed if I am certified in Spain. So it's easier. It's easier for my clients if I tell them, the clients in Belgium or Holland, hey, I'm also certified in Spain. So then I can use my Spanish certification, and I don't need to do the extra apostille. So it's a bit more. It's an easier process. And sometimes in Spain, sometimes, not always, but sometimes they only want people that have been certified in Madrid. So that's also one of the reasons why I went through with the certification process. It took me more than 2 years, I think 2 years and a half to get it, but I felt it was worth the while. And now I have both. It's two completely different certifications, and I think it's good to have both. And I've seen that a lot of translators that have their roots in another country, for instance, Poland or Sweden, sometimes they're both certified. Well, they're certified in their home country and also in Spain, and I think it makes sense to do that.
Okay, you said it took you like 2 years, 2.5 years.
Spanish bureaucracy.
Is that the normal length for this Spanish certification, or has it been extremely difficult also to receive it?
They were just very slow. So you have the normal Spanish bureaucracy, and on top of that, it was in full COVID-19 pandemic. So that's also one of the reasons why it took longer. Normally should have taken, in my country, it takes, I would say 1 month or 6 weeks at the most. It's a cultural thing. Things do take longer here in Spain, plus the COVID pandemic.
You have clients throughout Europe, including Spain. Do you see any differences of working with different clients in different countries?
There's definitely a difference. I would say you can clearly see the divide between Northern Europe and Southern Europe. That is different. Personally, I like working with people from Anglo countries, because the way we work is very similar. I'm Flemish from Belgium, so from the north of Belgium, and the way we work or look at work is very similar. So it's easy. It's easy. 1 or 2 words is enough. And sometimes with people from other countries, I need to do a bit more hand-holding. It depends on the person as well, and if they have lived abroad, or if they're a bit more international minded or not. But there's definitely, of course, but also people are people. I think, and there's always certain characteristics that return in every country, and every clients are clients. So there's also a lot of similarity.
So if you compare working in your home country in Belgium in comparison to working here in Spain, do you see any major challenges?
I would say, since I'm a digital nomad, so the clients are oftentimes also international, it doesn't really affect me. But I have noticed there is more red tape here, and it's very frustrating for me in Spain to what I've noticed. And that's something I still don't understand, especially in the area around Valencia. If I send an email to one of my telecom provider, for instance, 9 out of 10, they never reply. And that does not happen in my country, would never happen. They would reply, maybe it would take a few days or sometimes 10 days, but they would get back to me. And oftentimes in Spain, they just don't reply at all, and I need to call. Or sometimes they would just drop the line while I'm waiting and then not calling me back.
How much would you say in your profession, how much do people have to think about what's the level of tax and other contribution you have to pay as a freelancer?
Well, all the time, every day, you need to think of ways to optimize your taxes. So it's a very big concern. It's one of the reasons, me for instance, one of the reasons I moved to Spain initially was because taxation used to be a lot lower than my country, than Belgium, but nowadays the difference is not as big anymore. So it's definitely a big concern. As self-employed, you need to get enough clients every month. You need to pay the bills. You need to pay the taxes, the social security. It used to be you could choose. I preferred the system when I moved here. You could choose to have, for instance, a low flat flat rate for social security contributions, and in return you wouldn't get a big retirement. But most self-employed people are fine with that. We will take care of our own. That's how we think. We like to take care of our own, but then in return we don't want to overpay in taxes. But now they forced us, and they also made us pay more social security in proportion to what we earn. So now we have to rely on the government. But as self-employed people, we don't like to rely on the government. We like to take care of ourselves according how to we see fit. So that's a bit of an issue. I don't like to be controlled by the government. And every year it's become worse, actually. So I'm really hoping for a new government that, that would see things differently.
So how much do you pay monthly on taxes, and are there any other additional costs to consider?
Well, so there's the quota. The quota is at least about 300 a month, Social Security. Then on top of that, I would say about, it depends on how much you make, but I would say somewhere around 1,000 or more on taxes. And then there's also the sales tax, which is 21%. So that's on top of that. So if you charge your client a certain amount, you need to add the sales tax, and it hurts them. They feel it like, ooh, the 21% on top of that. But you don't get to enjoy those 21% because you have to give them to the government immediately. And then once you take out the 21%, out of the remaining part, you still need to pay your Social Security, you still need to pay your taxes. So you end up with a measly amount. So that's frustrating. It's frustrating that it's so high. But that's also, I would say, it's a bit all over Europe. It's a bit like that. It's not unique to Spain.
Okay, enough talking about the frustrating points.
Yes.
What is the positive? What do you love about Spain, about working from here, about the profession? What's your passion behind all this?
For me, my freedom, as you may have guessed, my freedom is very important to me. I like not having a boss, deciding, scheduling my own day. Sometimes busy days, sometimes a slower day, but I like that freedom. And the weather. The weather is very important to me. When I used to live in Belgium, in the winters I used to get depressed because of the lack of sunlight. We could go 1 month or more without seeing the sun in December or January, and I would get really sad. And I haven't had that same feeling anymore ever since I moved to Spain. So it's mainly the weather. And what I also like, in the supermarket, for instance, I feel like the cashiers, they're nice, they're friendly. It's corazón, cariño, reina. I like that. So it's the human touch, I would say. The same thing, what I also really like, when I go to a restaurant in Belgium, for instance, oftentimes they're like, hop, hop, hop. You get, you get 1 hour to eat, and then they're like, they can't wait to push you off the table to serve somebody else. Whereas in Spain, you can take your time for dinner on the weekend, when you go for drinks. It's more human, and I like that. I feel there's no stress here in Spain. I don't see a lot of stressed out people, and that's something I really enjoy, even though sometimes I get really stressed because of my job. But then I go outside and I see smiling faces, like chill, relaxed vibe, and that is something that I really, really enjoy. Yes, and also I feel the Spanish people, they're not cowards. They say what they think, and that's something that I appreciate. I feel they say it as they feel it and without a filter, and that's something I really enjoy, because in my country it's not really like that, and I like the directness.
Mm-hmm. So if you think about your customers and their buying and paying behavior, is there anything you wish it would be different in the future, or are you happy with how process is going here in Spain, also with other customers?
What I've noticed, sometimes it can take long to get paid, especially with companies. So that is something that I prefer in my country. Especially, I like working with Dutch people, because in Holland I have the impression that they're fast. Everything is fast, and I like that. It's the invoice gets paid fast. you get an okay fast. It doesn't take forever for them to decide. That is something that I like. And then here sometimes it can be frustrating that there's a lot of thinking and thinking again, if yes or no. And that's even something a real estate agent told me, that he said, oh, it's so nice to work with you because it's either yes or no, and that I'm decisive. And he said he was Spanish himself. He told me a lot of Spanish people are not very determined, not very decisive, and they have to think again and again and again, and it takes forever for them to make up their mind. And he said he liked working with people from the north because they're more driven and more yes, no, and there's a clear path.
What was the longest period you had to wait for a customer to pay your bills?
The longest I've had to wait, 4 months. No, actually it was longer. That was the Belgian government, because sometimes I have to work for the Belgian government mandatorily in order to keep my certification. It's a type of pro bono work, I would say. And I got a small payment, but I think I had to wait 8 months, and I had to send them a lawyer. It was pretty bad. So that was the longest, I think 8 months or more. And it was pretty ridiculous. But normally, and then also one time a US client, and he made me wait 4 months. And same thing, I had to take legal action, but then eventually I did get it.
That can be quite stressful for a freelancer.
Definitely. So I try to make clear arrangements when in the beginning, clear contract, and making it very clear that I have a short payment term. Because you don't expect that. You don't expect that people would have, the audacity to only pay after 4 months. It's not something, but yes, some people are very, some people have a lot of, have a lot of nerve, I would say. Not all, but some.
Your customers here in Spain and their paying behavior, you would say it's better than the Belgian government?
Yes, definitely. The Belgian government is the worst when it comes to payment. You're right. But I would say I have noticed sometimes the Spanish sometimes they're very prompt. So it depends. Sometimes, because usually the private clients need to pay up front and the companies can pay afterwards. But I have to say, knock on wood, but I haven't had a lot of issues actually with them.
So I think every business has its ups and downs and its calm and stressful situations. How do we deal with stress to stay healthy and sane? What are your recommendations to our listeners?
Well, I have a sedentary job, so I'm always seated when I translate. So I try to go to the gym 5 times a week. I do a strength training, and that has been a big help for me. So I've never had back pain or neck pain ever. And it's been like that since I decided to join the gym and go that often, because I really need that. But I would say stress management is still something I'm working on. I'm not good with dealing with stress, so I try to lead a healthy life and have fun on the weekend, see my friends, and to be able to get rid of the stress that's built up during the week. And then the gym. I like to dance. That helps as well. And then, but it's something that can be difficult to manage and to regulate.
So if our listeners would need a sworn translator or a translator, how can they find you?
Well, I have a website. It is www.nuiten, my last name, translations.com. My company is called Nuiten Legal Translations. And everything is on there. My phone number, my email address. I'm all over the internet, so it's Joke Nuiten is my name, so I'm easy to find.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to us, and all the best for your customers and for your business. Wish you lots of success.
Thank you. Very nice of you. Bye-bye.
Many thanks to Joke Nuiten. And it's funny, she said that it's easy to find her, but actually it is only easy if you know how to spell Nuiten. So it is Nuytten. find her at neutentranslations.com. And Joke is certified to translate between English, Spanish, Dutch and French, which is amazing to me. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be chatting to Nicole Peterson in Barcelona. Don't go away.
This is Business Roots on Talk Radio Europe, making sense of business in Spain. This is Business Roots on Talk Radio Europe with Mike McDowell and Simone Carlos.
Welcome back to Business Roots on Talk Radio Europe. I'm Mike McDowell. Don't forget to send us an email. The address is simone@tre.radio. That's simone@tre.radio. Ask us, or rather ask Simone, anything you like about running a business in Spain. That is her field of expertise, and if by some chance Simone does not know the answer to your question, then we will find someone who does. Okay, it is time for our next guest, who is a graphic designer.
Hi, I'm Nicole Peterson. I'm a 24-year-old freelancer, currently living in Barcelona, but I was born in Sweden and also grew up partly in Gibraltar.
You spent a lot of time in Spain when you were living in Gibraltar?
I think probably less than most Gibraltarians, but when I was young I also had the advantage of going to a Spanish school for a year. So I would say that Spanish that I learnt when I was very young has had crazy benefits now. I feel really, really lucky.
And whereabouts was that school? Was it in Gibraltar or one of the nearby towns?
Yeah, it was in La Línea, just across the border. So it wasn't too far, but it made a massive difference.
And how old were you then?
Very young. I think I might have been maybe 10, maybe even less, actually, maybe like 8-ish.
Primary school?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it was the last year of primary school.
And you just did 1 year, but the Spanish that you learned sunk in.
Exactly. Yeah, I think when you get surrounded by a language at that age, you can really start to understand the fluency of it a bit more instead of learning it in school. So at least from that, I got the notion of what feels right instead of what looks right on a book.
Am I right in saying that the Gibraltarians also have their own dialect?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. So they have this kind of dialect called Llanito, and it's, a mix of English and Spanish.
How did you find yourself in Gibraltar? Obviously your parents or one of your parents at least, was working there.
Yes. So we were in Sweden, and I believe it was that my parents wanted me and my brother to learn more languages because they're very language orientated. My dad is Swedish, but my mom's from the Philippines. And they saw Gibraltar as this opportunity to learn 2 languages at once. So they ended up, finding work there. My dad was retired, but my mom found work there. And I think we got pretty lucky.
And how long did you live in Gibraltar?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it was a bit strange because we did live in Gibraltar and in Sweden at the same time, basically like half and half, because the school sort of term in Sweden is slightly different to the one in Gibraltar. So we got to go to both schools at the same time.
Do you think of yourself as Swedish or Gibraltarian or Filipino or Spanish?
That's a good question. I think when I was younger, a lot of my best friends live in Gibraltar. So I considered myself more Gibraltarian, but something about me being a bit more grown up now, I feel a bit more Swedish than before. So I think it's a very good mix. I think when I'm away from Gibraltar, I feel more Swedish, but as soon as I get there, like the Llanito starts to creep in and I see my friends and it just feels, like I'm more Gibraltarian, but it really varies a lot, because before Barcelona, I was also living in London, so part of me feels a bit English as well.
Except, of course, I think, wait a minute, ethnically, you've no English. at all. It's odd, isn't it? At where we feel at home, it's an unusual thing. Huh?
Yeah, it's really nice though. I think I really enjoy being so international. And whenever someone asks where I'm from and I tell them the whole story of me moving around, they're always like quite surprised. But I think that's really nice, you know?
Do you still spend a lot of time in Gibraltar?
Not really, honestly. We just visited for a few days, my husband and I. And we usually just visit once or twice a year to see my family. But otherwise, yeah, it's just mostly in Barcelona or seeing a couple other places on holiday.
When you say to see your family, are your mum and dad there in Gibraltar?
Yeah, they're still there. Yeah, they're still there. My mom's still working there. My dad is still retired though. And it's just a nice little place to live, you know, and settle for a bit once you're a bit older.
I haven't been to Gibraltar for years, actually, for quite a long time. How is the border crossing now?
I haven't seen any problems personally, but when I've been driving around with my dad and crossing the border, he knows kind of exactly when to cross for there to be no queues. But otherwise, during the peak times, I think after work and after school, it does get super, super busy. I'm very lucky to have a Swedish passport, so it's an EU passport, and I don't have to get any stamps or anything crossing the border. So in that way, for me, it's very easy. But a lot of my friends who have the UK passport are struggling, and they can't really cross the border so much because their passports are already full of stamps.
You now live in Barcelona, and I wonder, what was it that drew you to the capital of Catalonia?
I think having also grown up in Gibraltar, I got used to a very Mediterranean life. And when I went to London for uni, I was very into the big city, and I was into, you know, the business life there. And once I graduated, I started working in a design studio there. And lucky for me, while I was working there, we went on a holiday to Barcelona to a design festival called Off. And I was just in love. Oh my God. It was so beautiful and the weather was so nice. And it just reminded me of that like Mediterranean lifestyle that I got so used to. And then going back to London, back to the constant drizzle, I told my husband that the next place that I want to go to will be Barcelona.
As a little aside, before we get back to you moving to Barcelona, do you mind me asking, how old were you when you got married?
I was 21.
You see, I think that is quite unusual these days.
Yes, it's very unusual. Whenever I tell someone that I have a husband, they always ask me how old I am. Because, you know, being 24 and having had a husband for a couple of years already is kind of crazy. But I think Daniel is his name. Daniel and I got very lucky because we met when we were like early teens, like 13, 14. And we've known each other for more than a decade now. And we just have this really like cliche Disney love story of having dated when we were younger and then him moving away and then us getting back together once I moved to the UK. And when you know kind of thing. And when I was 21 and he was 22, 23, we said, you know, why not? I think we're just best friends and it'd be very cool to call each other wife and husband. So we got married.
It's a lovely story. Tell us a little bit about Daniel. Is he British or Spanish?
He is Spanish, yeah. Born in Argentina, but Spanish nationality. And he is just, I love him so much. He's such a wonderful person. And he's a chef, which is really, really nice for me. And he's also very, very international because his mom is Spanish, but his dad is Dutch. And they've traveled so much as well.
Whoa, you lot, the pair of you, you're so complicated. So you're Swedish Filipino and you live in Barcelona, but you're Gibraltarian, and he is Spanish, Dutch, but Argentinian.
Yeah, born in Argentina, yeah. But they didn't stay there very long because they moved around quite a lot. I think he, funnily enough, I'm going to add another one into the mix. they spent a very, very, very long time in London. So I think he sees himself more English than Spanish. But now that we've lived in Barcelona for a bit, maybe they're merging a bit.
Goodness me. I tell you, I have to say, before we say anything else, I am in awe of your language skills. Because really, English is my first language, but it's your third language. Or is it your second language? I'm not sure. But nonetheless, it's not your native tongue, and it's just extraordinary to me that we are able to communicate so fluently. It is amazing. So kudos to you. Okay, so back to Barcelona. When did you and Daniel decide that you would move there and settle there?
So when I was working in the design studio, I ended up going through a lot of stress because I studied graphic design, but I went into 3D and motion, and that is a very, very grueling industry in terms of like technical skill and hours and such. And I ended up going through a lot of stress, and I have a condition called eczema. And my skin from the stress got really, really bad. And I decided to try this thing called TSW. It's called topical steroid withdrawal, where basically you stop taking certain medicines for that eczema. And I ended up having to quit my job there because of the impact that it was having on my health. And after a few months of healing, we thought maybe it's time to try Barcelona, and maybe the climate will help my skin. So after a little bit of planning, we essentially just decided to go. And it was kind of planned, but it was also not very planned. We were lucky enough to have a friend in Barcelona who had a spare room to rent out. So the worry about accommodation and such wasn't too big. And we figured it's worth a try, you know?
And has it helped?
Not the way we thought it would. Funnily enough, the way that TSW goes, my skin got worse for a few months, but then somehow it started getting better on its own, as it tends to do in that kind of way. And now I think with the humidity and the sun in Barcelona, it really, really, really does help, even if at first it didn't really make a difference. So very, very grateful to have made that change, because I think if we would have stayed in London with, you know, the constant dryness and the rain and the stress, I think my sort of healing journey would have gone very differently.
Okay. All right. So you're partly there for your health. I think a lot of people move to the Mediterranean in order to de-stress and spend more time outdoors. I think, you know, obviously yours was a physical manifestation, but I think just for one, you know, for your mental health, being near the Mediterranean and being in nature is just such a good thing, right?
Yeah, I think it makes the world of a difference, honestly. The joy that I get just from seeing a blue sky is so hard to explain, but you really take it for granted up until you don't see it that often. I think I got so used to seeing just grey skies in London that now whenever I see a blue sky in Barcelona, I'm just instantly filled with some kind of pure joy somehow. And yeah, it's just crazy for your mental health, you know, and then your mental health, of course, affects your physical health.
So what year did you move to Barcelona? How long have you been there?
We moved in April of 2024.
And whereabouts are you living? Are you right in the heart of the city?
Yes. So we started off in my friend's place that is a little bit outside of the city, but once we found our own flat, it is in the absolute center. Like where you expect everyone to go on holiday to like see all the touristic things, that's where we are.
Do you find it crowded? Do you? Because it's very hectic there, right? It doesn't sound like a stress-free environment.
It's been an interesting journey living in that flat because we've been there since June last year. And at first we were or at least I was very enamored by seeing all these people having a good time walking down the street. There's a bar just below us, which is very, very famous. And it was really nice to, see people enjoy life. But after a while, especially because I work from home, it has gotten into that period of time where I get a little bit more stressed by it being so loud. So I think definitely at some point next year, we will be moving to somewhere that's a little bit more quiet.
Do you find Barcelona expensive? I do, but I wondered what you think.
Oh my God, so expensive. Everything is so overpriced, especially I think for the wage that most people earn in Barcelona. And it's such a shame because, you go to the grocery shop, for example, and you just can't help but spend so much money for just a few things. And then that's just basic necessities. Then you want to go out and have a good time, and woof, most of the time it's just insanely overpriced. And I think most of the spots in Barcelona are very touristic as well, so you really have to watch out for those on top of everything else.
Have you experienced any animosity, the anti-foreigner, anti-tourist protests? Have they affected you in any way?
I think I'm very lucky to say no. I would like to think that at this point my Spanish is very good. At least my Spanish mother-in-law says that it's very, very good. And I did also work in hospitality for a couple of months, so I got to speak to a lot of, Catalan people. And I think I'm very fortunate that I never felt really like a tourist, and that I was always treated with respect, and I've never had anyone say anything mean to me thinking that I was a tourist. But I have also seen a lot of things online where, tourists are getting shouted at to go home. And I've seen, a couple of protests. But personally, I haven't felt that.
And have you seen any of the anti-tourist graffiti? Or I know also that, and it happens here in Mallorca, because I'm speaking to you from Mallorca today, that the key safes, those little boxes that you see outside Airbnbs, are being vandalised. They're being spray painted or smashed. Or
I have seen that, yes. Now that you bring up the key boxes, I will see a little bit of graffiti here and there on bus stops or train stations or whatever. But now that you mention it, the key boxes, they always are accompanied by some kind of graffiti next to it saying tourists go home.
You're listening to Business Roots on Talk Radio Europe. I'm Mike McDowell. I'm in conversation with Nicole Peterson, and we'll be finding out about her becoming a freelancer in Barcelona after this short break. Don't go away.
This is Business Roots on Talk Radio Europe. Spanish Business Decoded. This is Business Roots on Talk Radio Europe with Mike McDowell and Simone Carlos.
Hi, welcome back to Business Roots on Talk Radio Europe. I'm Mike McDowell. I'm chatting to Nicole Peterson in Barcelona. Nicole, you're a designer and you're freelancing now. Am I correct to say that you have your own design studio now, or is that overstating the case a little?
I think in the future, I would like to have my own studio as a business, but for now, I am just autónoma.
How have you found it so far, setting up as a freelancer in Spain? Have you found it easier, and do you think that the system is fair?
I was wondering if you would say the word fair, and I have opinions. On the setting up side, I had the idea of becoming a freelancer for a little bit. And so I did a bit of research on how I would get started. And I had a friend who was already freelancing as well, who gave me a bit of advice. And it was essentially just to try not to do it on your own. So I found I kind of tax helping agency thing where you pay a subscription every month and you get a consultant or an assessora to help you with your taxes. And for a little bit of an extra fee, they can sign you up as a freelancer as well. So I took that route, and because of that, I think things were very easy for me.
You had somebody sign you up and organise everything with the tax agency.
Exactly, yep.
And do you mind my asking how much you pay every month for that service?
€48 a month. And she took care of the signing me up as a freelancer. She helps me with my quarterly taxes, and then she helps me with my yearly as well.
So it's been somebody's done it for you. So in that sense, the administrative aspect of it has been a pretty easy ride.
Yes, I would say so, because I've heard a lot of horror stories, and I think I was just ready not to do it on my own. I figured the fastest way and the easiest way was to get someone else to do it. And when I found this service, it felt like it wasn't as expensive as other ones, because you still do your own invoicing and all that stuff. They just help you with those tax times. And I figured it was very worth it.
Let's get on then to the subject of fairness.
Yes. I think, okay, my main issue with fairness is mostly the Seguridad Social. I think it's very fair the first year in how much you're paying every month. After the first year is a whole other story. I feel like it would be a lot more fair if it was a percentage rather than a set number.
If it was, the amount you paid was reflective of your earnings, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I think it's nice that they have this initiative the first year where you pay, I think it's like €89 a month for the first year. But then the fact that it goes up so drastically after that, or after, a certain period, is quite scary. I think I got unlucky and lucky at the same time my first year of freelancing, because I've done it a little bit over a year now, where I didn't reach a certain number for my yearly income. So my assessora, she managed to renew the rate of my first year for a little bit longer. But the fact that it goes up by so much afterwards is something that has me considering, like, if I want to continue freelancing here or not. The idea of paying 300 plus euros in a month where you might not earn anything is just insane to me.
So what you're saying is it's so expensive, you're actually reconsidering whether to continue as a freelancer.
There is that possibility, yeah. Or even considering moving to another place.
Another country?
Yeah, exactly. And I've even looked into what it might be to try to register as a digital nomad and have my tax residence somewhere else, but that's a whole other story that I'm not quite sure of yet.
So it's so expensive that you would consider moving to another country where the social security payments are lower?
It's possible. I think it doesn't necessarily become relevant for everyone, because my husband and I have plans to move to a few other countries before we settle down. I think it's just the price of the social security might bring that moving date closer than originally planned,
The problem is, of course, that if you were eventually planning to expand your business beyond being simply a sole trader freelancer and to take on employees, you would then be taking on the burden of their social security payments as well. And so it becomes extraordinarily difficult to get a small business off the ground in Spain.
It has been a bit nerve-wracking and a bit worrying at times, and it does feel like it makes it more difficult.
Your social security payments, I suppose, go towards your healthcare and education for your kids. You don't yet have kids, and I wondered if in the future, let's say you had 2 children in state schools in Spain, and all 4 of you, husband Daniel, you and the 2 children, were all enjoying world-class healthcare, universal healthcare, would you then still continue to regard your $300 a month social security payment as high, or would you regard it as good value?
I think the healthcare in Barcelona has been really, really good. And in that way, I'm very grateful. But for now, if that were to go up, I don't think it would be quite worth it. But I think it all depends on how much you're actually earning.
I suppose the Spanish government would argue that it's got to be paid for. This great healthcare, this great state education, we have to find the money for it somewhere, you know? So everybody needs to pay.
So I can see where the government comes from with that number, thinking internationally and people coming in like expats. But I kind of struggle to understand it when I think in a more like localized setting, you know?
So really you think that the Spanish government should do more to incentivize entrepreneurialism by creating a sliding scale so you don't have that jump from the low monthly payment to the high monthly payment. You have a gradual increase as your earnings increase and as perhaps you take on employees.
Yeah, I think that would make a lot more sense.
Essentially, it would mean that those earning more money would pay more.
I'm okay with that.
So even if you became a higher earner, you'd be happy to pay more?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, as long as it's balanced, really.
Your clients for your design work, are they mostly Spanish businesses or are you working for international companies?
It started off with Spanish, but now it's definitely more international. I'm trying to kind of market myself a bit more internationally just because I'm also trying to make a living. And I've found that, you know, Spanish clients have a bit less budget.
And have your languages helped?
Yes, I would say so. The majority, maybe like 99% of my clients speak English. But I have spoken to clients in Spanish before, which has been very nice and very interesting for me. I am yet to get a Swedish client, but I would love to.
What sort of design work do you do? Are you product design or graphic design?
So I started off doing just brand design and graphic design, so the visual side. But I've recently expanded into doing the visual designs for the branding and then as well website design and soundscapes. So basically simple sound design to go along with the branding to make it a bit more immersive.
And do you do audio signature type stuff?
I haven't done it yet, but it is something that I am open to doing. The kind of sound design that I've done for now has been kind of soundscapes, so it's more like ambiental design for you to add maybe when you open a website or in the back of like an Instagram reel, for example.
Even though it's expensive and it's noisy and there's a little bit of anti-foreigner feeling going on, obviously you still love living in Barcelona. What's the most fun thing about being in Barcelona? As a 24-year-old, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine. I'm so old.
I'm going to go with the food. The food. I'm a massive foodie, obviously, because my husband is a chef. And we have our local spots for tapas that we really like to go to. And yeah, I think just the combination of finding a really good food spot that we can go to again and again, and then combined with the beautiful, beautiful sunny blue skies almost constantly. That's definitely my favourite part. That's the best part.
Wow. So it's not clubbing until the early hours.
Oof. I am a grandma, basically. I really value like my peace and my calm. And so I like never go clubbing. Last time I went clubbing was for New Year's. Next time it'll probably be New Year's again. But otherwise I am such a homebody. I love being at home and just relaxing, chilling.
And whereabouts is it that you keep going back to eat for tapas in Barcelona?
I'm almost hesitant to shout out this restaurant because it's always full. But in Elborn, there's a tapas place called Taperia Princesa. And the staff are so sweet, the food is always good, and it's very small. So if you get a seat, you're quite lucky, especially like in the busy times. But never have we gone there and regretted going there. And now, I think because we live in the area, the waitress there recognizes us, and it's very sweet. I would 100% recommend that spot. That's my favourite spot.
And what sort of food is it? Is it avant-garde? Because I'm going to reveal... Last time I was in Barcelona, I'm not kidding, last time I was in Barcelona, one of the things I ordered off the tapas menu was spicy chocolate soup.
What? I think that's crazy. I'd love to try it, but I think that's crazy.
It was spicy, it was chocolatey, and it was cold. It was a cold soup. I wasn't expecting that.
I was expecting maybe a spicily melted chocolate of some kind. That's crazy.
Yeah, hot chocolate. It wasn't hot chocolate at all. And it was a really cold day, actually. It was a winter's day. And I figured it was going to be a hot chocolate. And it was chocolate chili pepper gazpacho thing. It was most peculiar. But I enjoyed it because I'm also a foodie and I like trying different things. So I've got to go to... remind us, I've forgotten the name already. Princesa.
Taberia Princesa. It's very simple foods, but very, very delicious. Definitely not avant-garde spicy chocolate.
And what sort of food does your husband cook?
He also likes simple foods, but with, I would say, good quality produce and that kind of thing. He likes to experiment sometimes, but most of the time he just likes simple, good food. Spanish food, he's very good at. European foods, he's also very good at. He has worked in a couple of Michelin restaurants before, so he knows his tricks. But what he really likes is just that good, simple, hearty food. And that's my favourite as well.
Ah, but you said he's worked in a couple of Michelin-star restaurants, so he's a fancy pants chef.
I would say so. He doesn't think of himself that way, but I think so sometimes. And I'm very proud of him.
And where does he cook?
So right now, he's taken a bit of time to be a baker and learn about bread, which is very cool. But previously, he worked in a 2 Michelin called Cinc Sentits. And then before that, in London, he worked in a Spanish 1 Michelin called Sabor. And yeah, I actually really miss Sabor. If you're ever in London, that's the place to go. Incredible food.
Yeah, I think you've got to have quite deep pockets for Sabor, though, right?
I think it depends. Being very young, I don't have deep pockets, I will tell you. But going there, if you order just a few things off the menu, for a Michelin, I think it's not expensive. And for the quality of stuff that you get, I think it's very worth it, at least going just once. But it's definitely not one of those places where you'll be spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds for, bite-sized food.
And does your husband have plans to open his own bakery or restaurant in Barcelona or in Spain?
That's a funny question because everyone kind of asks the same thing. But he's told me before he doesn't have any plans of opening a business or being a private chef. He really just wants to focus on cooking good food because that's what he really enjoys. And I think that's very sweet, You
mentioned earlier on that you plan to live in a number of different countries before you finally settle down. When you settle down, will you settle in Spain?
That is a good question. So we've talked about Spain and we've talked about Sweden. Because those are our 2 main places and we care a lot about, quality of life. And we think both of those countries are good for that. But we haven't decided yet because it's quite far in the future. And for now, we're just taking it as it comes, really.
Many thanks to Nicole Peterson, who was so generous with her time today. And if you'd like any kind of graphic design work done, you can find Nicole at sjalstudio.com. That's sjalstudio.com. And you can search for her on Instagram as well if you want to see some examples of her work. Sadly, that is all we have time for this week. Don't forget to send us an email, and Simone will be back with me next week. Or rather, I will be back on the mainland. See you then. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this program, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit TRE.radio.